Well, I think that there's been so many studies about this. I mean, McKinsey produce studies regularly, Oliver Wyman, Rock Creek, which show that in private equity and in firms in general, we drive better value for firms, more IRRs, more increase in profitability when we have a gender diverse workforce. And I think there's also studies in Oliver Wyman which show that when we have ethnic diversity, it also drives value creation. And we're talking about 10 to 20% increased returns. We're talking about 9% in portfolio companies. Not only is it the right thing to do, why on earth would you not want to have increased returns by having gender and ethnic diverse people? Level 20 has been going for over 5 years now. We have a whole range of initiatives. I suppose I'm most proud of the mentoring initiative. It's been going since the very start. We're just starting our 6th year of mentoring. And it's quite an involved process. We match very carefully mentors and mentees in the industry. We've been doing it in the UK, as I said, for now our 6th year, but we've got programs running in France and Germany, the Netherlands, the Nordics, just started in Spain. And when we've looked back over the first few years of those programs, 95% of the people that were mentored are still in the industry. 67% of those people have been promoted. I think those statistics speak for themselves. If you get a good mentor, the right mentoring program, we will not only attract people to the industry, but we'll retain them and we'll help them to succeed getting to the top of their firms. But we've also got so many other initiatives. We're just about to kick off a survey, Level 20 in the BBCA, an update to our gender survey. This time we're going to include ethnicity as well, because it's important if we can measure and set a standard for how we define senior women in investment roles, mid women in investment roles. We're also just completed a family leave survey so that we can help inform our GP sponsors on what others are doing, and then we can debate about what would help to retain people in the industry by having different family leave policies. And we're about to launch a research paper, which we've been working on for the past 6 months with YSC consulting firm, which is looking at retention of women in the private equity industry, busting some of the myths about why people leave and finding out why people stay, why people leave, so that firms can address it and keep people in the industry. I think you've got to look at building diversity in 2 ways. Firstly, you ought to have policies. Yes, you ought to have policies. If you don't have a policy, how can you actually measure and implement things? So a hiring policy about how you hire diverse and inclusive workforce. But that's just the start of it. You have policies on hiring, you have policies on how you deal with diversity and inclusion. But unless you actually live those policies, unless they're actually shown authentically by the leaders, role modeled by them, then all you have is a bunch of policies. And once people realize that the authenticity isn't there, then they will drift away from your firm. So I think it's important to have the policies, but if you only stop there, you haven't actually achieved anything. You've got to have authentic leadership. And this isn't just from one person or the head of the D&I committee. This has to be mirrored throughout the senior management and the management. You can't skip a generation. And somebody said to me recently, people don't leave firms, they leave bosses. And I think that's very important. It's that authentic leadership that's very important. I think it's difficult to say you've got an industry standard. I know that we have things with the FTSE and you've got 30% club with 30% targets. I think it's more important to have a whole range of KPIs. And remember, private equity, the firms are so different. I think it would be difficult to try and put everybody into one basket. So building your own KPIs is important. Yes, We want, through the survey with BBCA and Level 20, we would like to have a standard template to capture diversity and ethnicity. Invest Europe may well work with us next year to actually include a wider variety of firms. But once you've got those definitions, I think it's down to individual firms. I mean, we know that Carlisle recently announced that they were going to ensure that they had a certain percentage of ethnicity on their boards, that they had hiring policies. And I think it's really important to have KPIs and then to measure people against them. Those KPIs have to be pushed down through the organisation. They can't just be the domain of the people at the management committee tables. They have to be pushed down through the organisations. And then that's maybe KPIs on hiring, on development, on how you appraise people, on how you set bonuses and promotions, and do it more as an evidence-based system. I think, I'm a glass half full person. We're at a crossroads here. I think we've demonstrated over the past few months that flexible working can work. It may not be how we want to do it. We don't want to work in a fully locked down way. However, I think we've redefined flexibility. People had in mind that flexibility was, I only want to work between 10 and 4 or etc. I can only do, it was inflexibility. What we've shown is that you can be much more flexible. I think we've redefined flexibility, and there's been a bit of a shift to an outputs rather than an inputs presenteeism-based view of life. So all of that is incredibly good, and I think we should be able to capture those for the future. Do you need to go to every single board meeting in person, or do you get to know the portfolio company and you do 1 in 3 as a physical meeting and 2 in 3 by Zoom? But we've got to be really, really careful. This is the crossroads, that in a post-COVID environment, some people won't be able to get back to the office as easily. Maybe they've got other responsibilities, caring, isolation, etc. And we've got to be careful that we don't form an A and a B team, those who are present and those who aren't, because my fear is that many of those who wouldn't be present would be the diverse people, would be the women. And if you get promoted because you're there in the office, if you get picked for the really good assignment because you're there in the office, then we would actually go backwards in terms of diversity. So we know the issue. We've got to make sure that we go on the right fork in the road.